All right, this week we're talking about the Many Saints of Newark 2.
The many more Saints of Newark?
There's more Saints of Newark. You just keep coming.
So many Saints.
All those saints.
It threw me off a little bit because while I'm not a Sopranos fan, Many Saints of Newark did look like it had something that the movie we're talking about today didn't have. Anything interesting going on?
I was going to say being good.
Give me a moment's peace and take out the trash.
We pay taxes for people to come and take the garbage.
Hey, listen, Greenie, no more sneaking rides to the junkyard. Yeah, man, take a taxi when you want to go to the junkyard.
Welcome to Hot Trash Unlimited, the show where me, Joe,
and me, Caleb,
go to the cinema in an attempt to see a movie that could be considered hot trash.
Joe, I just want to start this off. Well, okay, what did we see first?
I was about to ask you.
Yeah, okay. I was about to say All the Money in the World because they're extremely similar movies, just in the sense that they're both boring. But we saw House of Gucci.
It was a name that sounded so sweet, so seductive.
Come, meet the family. Hey everybody, this is Patricia, and this is my family.
Kick these teeth out!
They had it all. Wealth, style, power. Who wouldn't kill for that? I don't consider myself to be a particularly ethical person, but I am fair.
Can you keep a secret?
Father, Son, and House of Gucci.
Father, Son, House of Gucci.
I wasn't going to do this, but then you did point out that we do attempt to see hot trash, and I just need to know your justification. Why did you put me through this?
Because you kept quoting the trailer to me. It was like a movie that says that I can't be taking itself that seriously. You did this.
I did this to myself.
You did this.
I played myself.
Congratulations.
I guess I should just lay out my biases early, and then we'll start to get into the specifics of the movie.
Mm-hmm. That's a good place to start.
I don't like Ridley Scott. I've been known to call him a hack before,
yes.
which I kind of stand by. He's the type of director who has a lot of polish and skill to his work. He knows how to make a good-looking movie, but I think whether or not his movies have anything interesting going on is completely divorced from what he brings. He does not seem like the person who has any creativity, just craft. It's like a person who paints pictures for a hotel.
Yeah.
They're going to have a certain amount of skill. They're going to make pretty looking pictures. But why would you hang them up in the Met?
Anywhere but a hotel.
Exactly. Why did he ever get to go beyond TV movies or commercials?
Hey, he made The Martian. The Martian's pretty good.
I like Alien. I respect Blade Runner. But man, especially his recent output has been pretty boring.
So we're talking about House of Gucci, the movie that follows the trials and tribulations of, yes, that Gucci, the Gucci family.
What other Gucci would it be?
I don't know. Took me a second to figure out that it was talking about the fashion brand.
It is kind of interesting. Gucci, I guess, to us growing up, is more of like a rap thing. Like it's something that rappers will talk about. Mm-hmm. But this, of course, takes place in the 80s.
Or the 70s.
Or the 90s. It takes place at intermittent points of time, but it's of course very focused on the actual family back when the brand had stopped being quality. What Gucci means today is very different from what Gucci meant when this film is set.
Yeah, Gucci was high class and not a flex.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably was a flex back then too, but
it was a flex, but also dated flex.
Yeah, and it follows our main two characters, Patricia, whatever her last name is before she gets married into Gucci.
Reggiani.
And then Mauricio?
I think it's Maurizio. I don't know.
Whatever. Adam Driver and Lady Gaga.
Yeah. And they have a meet cute at a party. A very awkward meet cute.
With my first complaint of the movie.
A pretty noticeable one.
Pretty noticeable one. Okay, I am a hobbyist audio engineer.
You make money off of it.
Yeah, but, not a professional by any means. It's not my career. So I tend to notice more things than normal. But I wasn't the only one who noticed it during this scene. Adam Driver's first words, they're at a loud party, so, they're doing the thing where they're having to talk a little louder, like, hey, I'm talking at you across the room, and there's a lot of noise between us. And Lady Gaga's, she sounds fine. Then Adam Driver, you just hear all this static when he's talking, and then it's like a gate just cuts him off at the very end. And I'm like, that was a weird take. thinking it was just a weird ADR line that they never went back to fix or something like that. And then every single line of his in this scene continues to be like this. I'm like, was the XLR on his mic a little loose or something? Like, what happened?
And this never happens throughout the rest of the movie. We never have another character
No.
sound like this. Lady Gaga doesn't sound like this within the scene. Like,
It's so weird that they didn't know, like, whoever was monitoring that didn't notice something was off, and they're like, can we run through that again? Because it's not like it's a terribly long scene
no,
or anything.
usually with stuff like this, I just blame the theaters, but that's such a specific thing that cannot be the
No,
theater's
it's in
sound
the movie. When you have to rewatch this for Snub Club, it'll still be there.
setup. This better win something so I don't have to watch it. They meet. She finds out that he's a Gucci.
Does he explain why he's behind the bar?
No, he doesn't finish a sentence that entire meeting. He just very awkwardly stammers. And then she stalks him and then eventually gets him to fall in love with her. I don't exactly know how, because they jump from their first date to her meeting his father, Jeremy
And then getting
Irons.
married immediately after
Yeah,
that.
it's abrupt.
Yeah, you could call every scene in this movie abrupt.
Yeah, the editor for this, let me pull this up. Let me roast her right here and now, is Claire Simpson. I believe she took over after The Martian and has worked on his movies and TV shows. And internally, all the scenes are edited well enough. But then how all the scenes fit together is a big choppy mess.
It's the continuity and the passage of time in this movie that's like the first thing that you notice. It's like, oh, I guess a couple years have passed. It's kind of hard to tell because their haircuts are changing, yes, but they're rich. So I just assume that's something that they do on a whim.
Or you never know with movies. It could be very much just like, well, did this get reshoots? Like,
Yeah.
Jeremy Irons is very briefly in this movie, and it's really just this part where he doesn't approve of their marriage and then very briefly at the end does and dies.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Irons is a good actor. In fact, I'd say everyone in this movie, except with one noticeable exception, is a good actor. But for the love of God, whenever he has to yell,
The
he
accent
loses
disappears immediately.
any grip on the Italian accent. Similarly, Al Pacino, who plays his brother, whenever he yells, it goes straight to a Brooklyn accent. So which did you
He doesn't
prefer?
have to yell that much, though, to be fair.
Which did you prefer? An Italian becoming British for some reason or Italian becoming New Yorker? Keep in mind, Al Pacino does live in New York in this. Maybe he's just adopting the accent.
that one's more okay. It's definitely Jeremy Irons because I just hear Skark suddenly come in.
And then basically from that point on becomes Lady Gaga forcing Adam Driver to become more and more this cutthroat member of the Gucci family and slowly cut out his uncle, who's played by Al Pacino, and his cousin,
Jared Leto. Paolo.
But then eventually it kind of switches and he is like, well, I'm now the ruthless businessman and I'm cutting you out, Lady Gaga, which of course leads to the real life killing of him. She hires this couple schmucks to do it. Also Selma Hayek's in this movie.
We'll get to her.
This is a 2.5 hour movie that spans 3 decades.
Yeah.
And not much happens.
2 decades across like the course of like 20. It's like
Yeah.
20 years just between 3 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For all the backstabbing, all the internal politicking, all the family betrayal, all stuff that I like in other movies. Nothing really happens.
I'll chalk that up to the editing and just like making this movie just really hard to follow on like what the motives are in a specific scene. If Lady Gaga is like mustache twirling mastermind behind all of this, where they say straight up, she's like, oh, she's just marrying you for the money. And it's like, you could see it that way. You could also see that these are just 2 young people that are very like,
They're completely blank slates.
Yeah.
Because Ridley Scott does not care about characterizing anyone in this movie.
I whispered to you at the point where Jeremy Irons is like saying like she just wants you for her money. It feels like a second act moment where where it's like, oh, there's been build up to where you're invested in the relationship and it's 15 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, I don't understand why either of them are attracted to each other. I don't understand why Adam Driver takes the shift to become ruthless. I don't understand Pina at all.
Pina?
Selma Hayek.
Oh, is that her name?
Yeah. I don't understand why the woman later on, who Adam Driver leaves
His
Lady
like
Gaga
childhood
for.
friend or whatever.
Yeah, I don't understand why she wants any of this other than, well, Adam Driver is an attractive man. Maybe not in this, maybe not with those glasses, but They're all chess pieces to be moved around, which is what undercuts the drama for me.
And they were also real life people. So maybe in trying to make an entertaining movie out of it, entertaining in big old quotes, that something was lost in the translation of actually trying to figure out what happened in real life. And maybe there wasn't a lot of consultation on what actually went on.
Well, if that's
all
the
these
case,
people are dead.
If that's the case, then Ridley Scott shouldn't have done the project and these writers shouldn't have written it.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on this episode of Hot Trash Unlimited.
But like, this is an interesting story in real life, and one that's very suited for like true crime fans of today.
Oh, definitely.
There's never a moment where they try to attach to the humanity of these characters. Not just like why they love each other or anything like that, but also why they hate each other.
You like get a little bit of it in the first act, you know, before you realize that there's no substance. When you're trying to latch onto something.
To be fair, I noticed that when I saw in the trailer, directed by Ridley Scott.
But when Adam Driver comes up to her family and is begging for a job, he's like, "I love your daughter, but I have nothing now." You're like, "There's kind of something here," and then it immediately cuts to a really weird sex scene between Adam Driver and Lady Gaga.
You know, actually, the moment like that, the only moment where I really got any humanity from this movie, after Al Pacino's character gets let out of prison for tax evasion, and he goes to his son, who's played by Jared Leto, who has been kind of forced into selling off their shares of the company. They have a scene where they then do share that. I really like that. Al Pacino is doing some pretty charismatic acting.
All the actors in this movie are doing a good job, one withstanding, but they can't save the script, they can't save the direction, they can't save the editing.
Well, and if you have one moment, your one moment comes like 30 minutes into the movie and then it's just never there. Mine comes like 2 hours into the movie.
Which is to say, I think there's a couple of those moments of humanity, like when I'm still trying to figure out Adam Driver and Lady Gaga, I'm sensing that Lady Gaga is, you know, a little bit greedy and is trying to get stuff, but they seem like a real couple at moments where it's like, oh, they're a new family and they're just like, they're really into each other, and it's kind of endearing. And then they keep getting drawn into the Gucci drama, and I'm just like, I can't relate to this at all.
The thing for me is that like their daughter is in like 4 scenes, has maybe 2 lines of dialogue. You never understand anything about her. I feel like they have just as much characterization as she does. They just have more screen time. I just don't feel like Ridley Scott cares about these people.
No, I don't. Yeah, no, that's a good complaint.
Even comparing this to All the Money in the World, his last movie about boring rich people. And maybe that's just because Christopher Plummer can outact anyone in this cast, which is probably true.
Oh, that's the Kevin Spacey replacement movie.
Yes.
Oh.
But like there, I was like, oh, okay, some of this family drama is working. Some of this tension is working. So ultimately didn't enjoy the movie. But like anything that was even like slightly redeeming about that movie is drained out in this one. I think that's because Ridley Scott cares more about making this look pretty.
Which is to say, this movie does look good.
Yeah,
like,
but it doesn't look like one of the most amazing movies of the year either.
No. But there is that polish
this
that you
looks
expect
like,
from a seasoned filmmaker at this point.
You know, if I saw 30 seconds of this and then it flashed, buy your purses now at Gucci, I'm like, that would be a good commercial.
Oh, that would be a good commercial. Yeah.
But this isn't a commercial. It's a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah. I think you have your biggest complaint with the movie and I have mine. Okay, Salma Hayek's in this movie.
Oh, okay. That's not where I thought you would go.
Maybe we can go to that after. She is introduced while Lady Gaga is down on her luck. She's like, I want more. And I don't think my husband is like cunning enough to like
ambitious
enough to like pursue what he can easily pursue in his position. And she sees a fortune teller on TV, played by Salma Hayek. Pina is her name. And
I don't think you ever get her last name.
No, I don't think you ever got her first name, honestly. So she calls in and she's like, you will have greatness, you will have success, whatever, all this stuff, you'll have money. And I'm like, that's a weird role for Salma Hayek to take. Then she shows up in an hour and Lady Gaga's at her house and getting a reading again. And then after the divorce happens and Lady Gaga's been out, they're like in the bath together. I guess they're
at a spa.
I guess it seems like they're roommates at this point because they keep just showing up together all the time.
2 separate baths. It's not like they're, although honestly, I could see that Salma Hayek being Lady Gaga's rebound, but not a bad choice. But they're at like one of those mud bath spa things together.
Yeah. Then they cut back and then they're just in a bath again. And they're just hanging out with each other for the rest of the movie. And it's like, where did this she was just your fortune teller.
Yeah. Well, it's because
it's such a weird connection.
There's no context.
There's absolutely no context to whether she is important enough. And she is, because she was one of the real life people arrested because she helped facilitate the murder of Mauricio. But you don't know that going into this.
Another thing that is just lacking in context. Paulo who is Jared Leto's character, at one point he has a Gucci fashion show when he's not supposed to. And at that, there's an opera singer. And then eventually the cops come and they shut it down because it's an infringement of copyright. And the opera singer just kind of keeps sadly singing during the whole thing. And then you're like, what is this? Why is she so invested? And then you find out that that's his wife like 2 scenes later.
Yeah.
You could have established this. You have so many scenes of him at his home.
Yeah, just doing nothing.
Yeah. Context does not matter in this movie.
All right, your turn.
I've already talked about my biggest problem with this movie, which is Ridley Scott. But there's one actor, our good old friend from The Little Things, Jared Leto. This man can act.
For as much crap as I give him, he is a good actor. I just hate him.
See, here's my thing. I think he can act. I think he chooses not to act. He gets like 5 scripts a year. And then he's like, okay, I should act this way for this one, this way for this one. He writes out all down on cards. Then he shuffles them up. And he just draws them out. It's like, for this one, I should be a Mario walking around. Do you want to see my pigeons?
His voice is way higher in this, too. He's constantly at the cusp of his voice cracking.
I'm not sure if he's supposed to be comedic relief or if this is just what Jared Leto wants to do that day, and Ridley Scott doesn't want to rein him in. But like, he is going so over the top in this movie where everyone is like barely awake.
That's such a perfect description. It's so hard figuring out his role in all of this while the movie's going on. Yeah, it being over, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what happened. But he's the idiot son who looks the same age as all the old men in this movie with all the makeup that he has on.
Doesn't look the same age as Jeremy Irons because Jeremy Irons looks like a resurrected corpse.
But I thought he was just one of Al Pacino's friends when he's like pushing him into the game of football or whatever.
That was rugby.
Okay, yeah. It looked like they were just fighting at first. I was like, what is this?
That basically is what rugby is.
But then it's like, oh, he's the son. Okay, that's weird. Is he like an idiot son who's like actually smart and like just misunderstood? No, but yes. Well, he has good ideas. Oh, they're good enough to backstab him over, but also he's not smart. I'm so confused.
I don't know. I
never knew if he was actually smart or if they were just trying to get him to like overstep his boundaries so that they could take the shares.
From a business sense, he's definitely naive and easy to manipulate. I assume because Jeremy Irons says so that the fashion show is bad, but I don't know enough about fashion to be able to say like this fashion show is bad compared to all the other fashion shows.
Yeah.
Compared to Reeve Carney.
Context matters.
We have invoked his name, so I should talk about the one thing I liked in this movie. Everyone in this movie's fine. I'd say legitimately the only one who's like brings some type of life, and maybe that's because he's unexpected. There's context behind why we would like to see him in here, and he comes late enough in the movie where it's like, oh, finally a new character. Reeve Carney, Broadway veteran, lead of the big hit Hadestown, and the biggest flop, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, both of which I've seen on Broadway, one of which Joe has seen. Mm-hmm. He's in this as Tom Ford. And we know he's in this because Joe looked it up. And we keep being like, is that Reeve Carney?
There's like 3 separate people that were like, Reeve Carney, he's here, thwip.
Because Reeve Carney is kind of just a generic looking dude. He could be anyone. But once he starts talking,
it's immediately noticeable.
It's like, yes, this boy has been bouncing off the walls.
He rised above.
He rose above. But unfortunately, Eurydice looked behind, so he had to leave her behind. I think Reeve Carney was a lot of fun in this.
Sure.
Like how Tom Ford brought new life into Gucci, Reeve Carney breathes a little bit of life into House of
Into
Gucci
the last 15 minutes of this movie.
for his 3 scenes.
What part did you think I was going to have the biggest problem with?
Jared Leto.
Oh, okay. Selma Hayek was way more distracted because I expect this kind of thing from Jared Leto now.
Yeah, Selma Hayek at least is like good.
Yeah, I was just confused every time she showed up. Like, what is your role in all of this?
Very similar to when she popped up for like 2 minutes in Eternals. I'm like, hey, I'm glad you got a paycheck, Selma Hayek.
She's heavily in the marketing for that movie, though.
Yeah, that's true. She's in the marketing for this, but this has such a stacked cast.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'm sad. I'm sad that I wasted 2 hours of my life.
2.5.
This cannot be hot trash because hot trash requires anything interesting, which is something Ridley Scott can't deliver. It's only something he can accidentally stumble into.
Yeah, this, I was hoping, I still have not seen the trailer for this movie, but Caleb just kept quoting.
It's a great trailer. It's set to Heart of Glass. It drops out, and the 2 lines that drops out for is Father, Son, and House of Gucci. And then, I'm not fair, or I'm not an ethical person, but I am fair. And both of those are good trailer lines.
They are. And we just kept quoting to each other. Father, son, House of Gucci. Which is just, you have a setup line like that, and you're just expecting, okay, there's gonna be flavor to this movie. They spiced it up. And it didn't.
Turns out it's just a heart of very boring filmmaking. I'm not happy that you made me see this, but you know what? We're going to watch a movie for our Christmas special that you won't be happy.
Oh, is that next?
I think so. I think that will probably be our next one, unless we can squeeze one more in. Joe, what are we watching for our holiday special?
Do I know?
Thwip.
Spider-Man 3? I don't know what we're watching.
No Way Home. We've talked.
Oh, I didn't know that was going to be the holiday special.
Yeah. No Way Home doesn't look like it will be hot trash, but Joe really likes Spider-Man.
And I really don't like the MCU Spider-Man.
And there's really nothing else coming in December that we could talk about. Unless we want to see Sing 2, which...
No, why?
No. Yeah.
No.
So we'll be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Way No Man Home.
Yes. Spiders-Man No Ways-Homes.
No Man Spider's Way Home.
So if you would like to listen to that, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you want other people to discover our podcast, be sure to rate us 5 stars and give us recommendations to your friends. If you want to get into contact with us, you can contact us at hottrashunlimited@gmail.com, and you can find me at all the regular platforms at Caleb from the Real World, except for Twitter and Facebook. Actually, not many of the regular platforms at all. Instagram and YouTube. And from there, you can find all my other podcasts.
I have one last thing to say.
All right, go for it.
Gucci flip-flops. Okay, hit you with a sock.